The battle was over. The stars were quiet again. Where the Velthary fleet had stood in arrogant power, now only wreckage drifted through the darkness. Burning hulls, broken ships, the remains of an empire's pride scattered across the void. Human rescue ships moved through the debris, searching for survivors. Medical teams worked without rest, treating wounded soldiers from both sides. This was another thing that made humans strange to other species. They saved their enemies, even those who would have enslaved them. On the mining station Bright Star, the 47 survivors gathered in the main hall. They were tired, wounded, and still in shock. But they were alive. They were free. Admiral Dong-Su's shuttle landed in the station's dock. The old warrior stepped out and walked through the corridors with a small escort. He passed through areas still damaged from the attack. He saw the marks of battle where civilians had fought against trained soldiers. Yunho met him at the entrance to the main hall. The station commander looked exhausted, with bandages on his arm and dirt on his face. But he stood straight and offered a salute. Dong-Su returned the salute with respect. Commander Yunho, you and your people showed incredible courage. We did what we had to do, Admiral. But without you, without the fleet, we would all be in chains right now. Yunho's voice broke slightly. Why did you come? We are just miners. We are nobody special. Dong-Su looked at him with eyes that had seen too many wars. You are human. That is enough. That is everything. That is everything. He walked into the main hall where the survivors waited. Some cried when they saw the Admiral's uniform. Others just stared, unable to believe this was real. Dong-Su looked at each face. He saw young people and old people. He saw scientists and workers and engineers. He saw families. He saw humanity. You called for help, he said, his voice carrying through the room. We came. That is what we do. That is what we will always do. No matter how far, no matter how dangerous, no matter how few, we never leave our people behind. Umbai stepped forward. The medical officer's kind eyes were red from crying. Admiral, some of us wrote messages to our families. We thought those messages would be all that survived. We thought we would never see home again. Dong-Su nodded slowly. You will see home again. Every one of you. Transport ships are being prepared. You will be back with your families within the week. A cheer rose from the survivors. People embraced each other, laughing and crying at the same time. The fear and despair of the past days melted away, replaced by pure relief. Taeyong found the Admiral later, as Dong-Su was inspecting the damage to the station. The engineer looked embarrassed. Admiral, I hope the mining lasers were acceptable. I know they are not military weapons. Dong-Su almost smiled. Chief Engineer, you destroyed a Velthary shuttle with equipment designed to cut rocks. I would say that is more than acceptable. I am recommending you for a commendation. Taeyong's face turned red. I was just doing my job. That is the best kind of heroism. Elsewhere in the fleet, Overlord Krethvos sat in a holding cell aboard the Earth's Promise. His 4 arms were still restrained. His yellow eyes stared at the floor. He could not understand what had happened. Commander Hyan Wu came to see him. The Black Wolf leader stood outside the cell, looking at the fallen Overlord with cold eyes. You should have listened to your officer, Hyan Wu said. He warned you about us. Krethvos looked up. His voice was hollow. I have conquered a dozen colonies. I have taken thousands of slaves. No one ever came for them. They were not human. What makes you different? What makes you willing to risk so much for so few? Hyan Wu was quiet for a moment. Then he answered, because every one of us knows that if we were the ones trapped, others would come for us. Because we trust each other. Because we are family. Krethvos did not understand. His species valued power and conquest. The idea of risking everything for strangers was alien to him. "You will never conquer the galaxy with such thinking," he said. Hien Wu shook his head. "We do not want to conquer the galaxy. We just want our people to be safe. And we will destroy anyone who threatens that." Admiral Dong Su prepared his message to the galaxy. He recorded it on the bridge of the Earth's Promise, with the wreckage of the Veltri fleet visible through the window behind him. To all species and governments watching, this is Admiral Dong Su of the Earth Defense Force. Today, the Veltri Dominion attacked a peaceful human mining station. They threatened our people with slavery. They demanded surrender. He paused, letting the words sink in. We responded with 200 warships. We destroyed their fleet. We captured their overlord. And we brought our people home. Let this be a message to everyone in the galaxy. There is no safe target among humans. There is no acceptable loss. Attack one of us, and you attack all of us. We will cross any distance. We will face any danger. We will fight any enemy. Because that is who we are. The humans of this station were miners, workers, families. They were not soldiers. They were not important by galactic standards. But they were ours. And that made them worth more than all the treasure in the universe. Remember this day. Remember what happened here. And think very carefully before you threaten human lives again. The message was broadcast across all channels. It reached every corner of civilized space. It was translated into hundreds of languages. It was watched by billions of beings. On a trade station far away, a group of alien merchants watched the broadcast in silence. When it ended, one of them spoke. "The humans are insane." "No," said another. "They are terrifying." Because they actually mean it. On the Veltri homeworld, the government received news of the disaster. 60 ships lost. An overlord captured. And now a human message warning them against future attacks. The Veltri High Council met in emergency session. For the first time in their history, they discussed peace with a species they had viewed as prey. On Earth, families received word that their loved ones were safe. Parents hugged their children. Partners cried with relief. The names of the Bright Star crew were broadcast on news channels, not as victims, but as survivors who had been rescued by the greatest fleet mobilization in human history. And on the mining station, Hana stood at a window and watched the human fleet hold position around them. Battleships and cruisers and destroyers, all there to protect 47 people they had never met. Yun-Ho stood beside her. "What are you thinking?" Hana smiled through her tears. "I am thinking about what I will tell my children someday. About the day the galaxy learned what it means to be human." "And what does it mean?" She looked at him with pride in her eyes. "It means that no matter how far you go, no matter how alone you feel, someone will always come for you. It means you are never truly alone." Yun-Ho nodded. He looked out at the stars, at the ships that had crossed impossible distances to save them. He thought about all the species in the galaxy who measured value in power and wealth. Humans measured value in each other. That was their secret. That was their strength. That was why the galaxy feared them, and that was why they would endure. The transport ships arrived the next day. The crew of the Bright Star said goodbye to their damaged station and boarded the vessels that would take them home. As they left, they passed the human fleet still standing guard. Hana sent one final message on her communication console. It was not a distress signal this time. It was a thank you. Somewhere in the fleet, Admiral Dong Su received the message. He read it once, then saved it in his personal files. He would keep it forever. It reads simply, "You came for us. We will never forget." The fleet turned and began its journey home. Behind them, the wreckage of the Veltri ships drifted in the darkness, a silent warning to anyone who might make the same mistake. The galaxy had learned a lesson. Today, some people were not worth attacking. Some targets were not worth the cost. Some species would fight to the last breath for every single life. Humanity was one of those species. And now everyone knew it. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace like stars being born. 212 warships dropped into normal space in perfect formation, spreading across the void in a wall of steel and firepower. Battleships took the center, their massive guns already turning toward the enemy. Cruisers formed protective lines on the flanks. Destroyers moved like hunting dogs, fast and deadly. And behind them all, carrier ships launched wave after wave of fighter craft. Overlord Krethvos stood frozen on his bridge. His forearms hung limp at his sides. His yellow eyes could not believe what they were seeing. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." Sub-Commander Thrall checked his readings 3 times. 200 ships, Overlord. All human warships. All armed for battle. The numbers did not make sense. The nearest human base was weeks away. How had they traveled so far so fast? And why had they sent so many ships for a small mining station? Across the command channel, Admiral Dong Su's voice spoke again. Cold, calm, final. "Valkyrie fleet, this is your only warning. You have fired on our civilians. You have attempted to take our people as slaves. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Leave now or face destruction." Krethvos felt something he had not felt in decades. Fear. But he was a Valkyrie overlord. He had built his power through conquest and cruelty. He could not show weakness in front of his crews. "Prepare for battle," he ordered. His voice shook slightly. "All ships, attack formation." Thrall stared at him. "Overlord, they outnumber us more than 3 to 1. Their ships are larger and better armed. We cannot win this fight. We are Valkyrie." Krethvos roared. "We do not run from prey." On the bridge of the Iron Will, Captain G1 watched the enemy fleet reform. She had fought the Valkyrie before. She knew their tactics, their weaknesses, their fears. They were bullies who attacked the defenseless. They had never faced a real human battle fleet. "Captain, the enemy is not withdrawing," reported her weapons officer. G1 nodded. She had expected this. Pride would destroy them. "All ships," she broadcast. "Weapons free. Protect the station. Show no mercy." The battle began. Human destroyers moved first, racing toward the Valkyrie flanks with incredible speed. Their smaller guns could not hurt battleships, but they were perfect for tearing apart cruisers and escorts. Energy beams and missiles flew in both directions. Valkyrie ships exploded as human weapons found their marks. Krethvos ordered his fleet to focus fire on the destroyers, but that was exactly what the humans wanted. While the Valkyrie guns pointed at the small ships, the human battleships closed the distance. The Iron Will led the charge. G1 stood on her bridge, calm as stone, giving orders in a steady voice. Her ship's main guns fired in perfect sequence, each blast punching through Valkyrie armor like paper. "Target their command ships," G1 ordered. "Cut off the head." 3 Valkyrie cruisers died in seconds, their hulls breaking apart under concentrated fire. The crew aboard them never had time to scream. Admiral Dong Su watched the battle from his command ship, the Earth's Promise. He did not interfere with his captains. They knew their jobs. He focused on the bigger picture, watching for changes in the enemy formation, looking for opportunities. "Sir," an aide reported, "Commander Hyan Wu's team is ready." Dong Su nodded. "Send them in." The Black Wolves launched from their carrier in 12 assault craft. Each craft carried 8 of the deadliest soldiers humanity had ever trained. They flew through the chaos of battle, dodging weapons fire and exploding debris, heading straight for the Valkyrie flagship. Hyan Wu sat in the lead craft, checking his weapon one last time. Beside him, his team prepared in silence. They had done this before. They would do it again. 30 seconds to target, the pilot announced. Hyun-woo looked at his soldiers. We have one job. Capture the Overlord. Anyone else who gets in the way dies. The assault craft slammed into the flagship's hull. Cutting lasers burned through the armor in seconds. The Black Wolves poured into the enemy ship like water through a broken dam. Valkyrie soldiers rushed to stop them. They outnumbered the humans 10 to 1. It did not matter. The Black Wolves moved with terrifying speed and perfect teamwork. Every shot hit its target. Every movement was precise. Valkyrie soldiers fell by the dozen, unable to even touch the humans moving through them. On the bridge, Krethvos heard reports of the boarding action. Humans inside the ship? Kill them! Kill them all! But his soldiers could not stop the Black Wolves. Nothing could stop them. Outside, the battle continued to turn against the Valkyrie. Ship after ship died under human guns. The Valkyrie formation broke apart as captains tried to flee. Human destroyers hunted them down, destroying any ship that tried to escape. Thrall watched the disaster unfold on his screen. Overlord, we must retreat. The fleet is dying. Krethvos did not answer. He was watching the door to his bridge. He could hear fighting in the corridor outside. Weapons fire. Screams. Getting closer. The door exploded inward. Through the smoke stepped Commander Hyun-woo, his armor covered in Valkyrie blood, his rifle raised and ready. Overlord Krethvos, Hyun-woo said calmly. You are under arrest for crimes against humanity. Surrender. Krethvos pulled a blade from his belt and charged at the human. He was strong and fast and had killed many enemies in close combat. Hyun-woo moved faster. He sidestepped the attack, grabbed the Overlord's arm, and twisted. The blade fell to the floor. A second later, Krethvos was on his knees, his arms locked behind his back. Secure him, Hyun-woo ordered. 2 Black Wolves pulled the Overlord to his feet and locked restraints on his wrists. Krethvos struggled, but it was useless. He was captured. Outside the flagship, the battle was ending. Less than 20 Valkyrie ships remained, and they were running as fast as their engines could carry them. Human ships let most of them go. There was no need to chase. The message had been delivered. On the mining station, Hana watched the battle through her sensors with tears running down her face. She could not believe what she was seeing. The human fleet had come. They had actually come. We are saved, she whispered. We are saved. Yunho stood beside her, watching the Valkyrie fleet scatter and die. He felt exhaustion and relief and something else, pride. He was proud of his species. Proud of what it meant to be human. A communication signal came through. Hana opened the channel, and Admiral Dong-Su's voice filled the command center. Mining Station Bright Star, this is Admiral Dong-Su. The enemy fleet has been defeated. Rescue ships are on their way. You are safe now. Yunho pressed the response button. His voice cracked with emotion. Admiral, we cannot thank you enough. We thought no one would come. We thought we were forgotten. There was a pause. Then Dong-Su spoke, and his cold voice carried something warm. Commander, we never forget our people. Not one of you. Not ever. That is not who we are. Yunho closed his eyes and let the tears fall. Around him, his crew embraced each other and cried with joy. The nightmare was over. They were going home. In the debris field where Valkyrie ships burned, human rescue craft began collecting survivors. Even enemy soldiers were pulled from the wreckage. Humans believed in mercy, even for those who showed none. Admiral Dong-Su watched the rescue operation from his bridge. The Overlord had been taken to a holding cell. He would face trial for his crimes. Justice would be served, but the Admiral was already thinking about what came next. This battle was over, but the galaxy needed to know what happened here. The galaxy needed to understand what it meant to attack human civilians. He began preparing his message. The Valkyrie fleet surrounded the mining station like predators circling wounded prey. 60 warships hung in the darkness, their weapons pointed at the small human station. Overlord Krethvos stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tiny structure on his main screen. He was tall even for a Valkyrie, with gray-green scales and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. His eyes were yellow and cold, like those of a reptile. He had conquered 12 colonies and captured thousands of slaves. This small station would be easy. The humans refused to surrender, reported his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Threll. He was younger than Krethvos and smaller. His voice carried a hint of worry. Krethvos laughed. It was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. Of course they refuse. They always do it first. Give them time. When they see their hull breaking apart, they will change their minds. Thrall hesitated before speaking again. Overlord, perhaps we should consider leaving. The humans have a reputation. Reputation? Krethvos turned his cold eyes on his subordinate. What reputation? They come for their people. Always. No matter the distance. No matter the cost. Krethvos waved one of his claws dismissively. Stories told to frighten children. Look at the facts. We are in the deep outer rim. The nearest human military base is weeks away. By the time anyone arrives, we will be gone with our prizes. But Overlord, the stories say, enough. Krethvos' voice turned hard. I do not want to hear about stories. I want results. Begin the bombardment. Light fire only. I want to scare them, not destroy the merchandise. On the mining station Bright Star, the crew felt the first impact shake their home. The station groaned and shuddered as energy beams struck the outer hull. Alarms screamed in every corridor. Yunho stood in the command center, watching damage reports appear on his screen. Report. Taeyang's voice came through the communication system. He was in the engineering section, fighting to keep systems running. Outer hull is holding, but just barely. They are using low-power weapons. Playing with us. They want us alive, Yunho said grimly. They want slaves. Hana looked up from her console. Her face was tired, but determined. The distress signal is still broadcasting. Someone must have heard it by now. Maybe, Yunho said. He did not want to crush her hope, but he knew the truth. They were too far away. Help would not arrive in time. Another blast shook the station. In the medical bay, Yunbai held onto a patient's bed to keep from falling. A young miner named Sanghi lay on the bed, his arm wrapped in bandages. He had been hurt when part of the ceiling collapsed. How are you feeling? Yunbai asked him gently. Sanghi tried to smile. I have had better days. Yunbai checked his bandages. The wound was not serious, but she worried about what was coming. If the Valkyrie boarded the station, things would get much worse. In the maintenance section, Taeyang worked furiously on the mining lasers. They were never meant to be weapons, but he had rewired them to fire in short bursts. They would not destroy a warship, but they might damage a shuttle or blind a sensor array. His assistant, a young engineer named Yura, helped him connect cables. Her hands were steady even though her eyes showed fear. Will this work? She asked. Taeyang wiped sweat from his forehead. It might. Or it might blow up in our faces. Either way, it is better than doing nothing. On the Valkyrie flagship, Krethvos watched the bombardment with satisfaction. The station was weakening. Small fires burned in sections where the hull had been breached. Soon the humans would surrender. Thrall approached him again. Overlord, our sensors are detecting something strange. What now? Long-range readings show unusual activity in hyperspace. Something is moving through the hollow. Krethvos frowned. The hollow was a dangerous region of unstable space. No one traveled through it willingly. Probably asteroid debris? Ignore it. But Overlord, I said ignore it. Krethvos turned back to the main screen. Focus on the station. Send a boarding party. I want to start loading prisoners within the hour. Thrall bowed his head and gave the order. 3 Valkyrie shuttles launched from different ships, flying toward the damaged station. Each shuttle carried 20 soldiers, armed and ready to capture humans. Yunho saw the shuttles approaching on his screen. They are coming, he announced to his crew. Everyone, prepare to defend yourselves. The 47 people on the station had no military training. They had mining tools, emergency suits, and courage. It was not much against armed Valkyrie soldiers, but they would fight anyway. Taeyong finished his work on the mining lasers just in time. Ready, he reported. Fire at the shuttles, Yunho ordered. Everything you have. The mining lasers were never designed for combat. They were meant to cut through rock, not ships. But Taeyong had done something amazing with limited resources. The lasers fired in bright bursts, hitting 2 of the 3 incoming shuttles. One shuttle spun out of control, its engines damaged. It crashed into an asteroid and exploded in a ball of fire. The second shuttle lost power and drifted away, unable to continue its approach. But the third shuttle kept coming. On the Valkyrie flagship, Krethvos watched in shock as his shuttles were attacked. Mining lasers? They are fighting back with mining lasers? Thrall looked even more worried than before. Overlord, the humans are more dangerous than we expected. One shuttle is still approaching. Once our soldiers are inside, this resistance will end. Krethvos refused to show concern. He had 60 warships. The station had 47 civilians. The outcome was certain. The surviving shuttle landed on the station's main dock. Valkyrie soldiers poured out, weapons raised. They moved through the corridors, expecting frightened civilians hiding in corners. Instead, they found humans waiting for them. Yunho stood at the front of a group of miners holding heavy tools. Taeyong had power drills and cutting torches. Even Yunbai had grabbed a metal rod from the medical bay. The Valkyrie soldiers stopped in surprise. They had never seen prey that stood and faced them. You cannot win, the Valkyrie squad leader growled. Surrender now, and you will live. Yunho stepped forward. His voice was calm and steady. We are human beings. We do not surrender to slavers. If you want us, you will have to take us. The fighting was brutal and short. The Valkyrie had better weapons, but the humans fought with desperate fury. Miners swung heavy tools. Engineers threw chemical containers that exploded on impact. Medical staff used sedatives as weapons. When it was over, half the Valkyrie soldiers were dead or wounded. The rest retreated to their shuttle and fled back to the fleet. Yunho leaned against a wall, bleeding from a cut on his arm. Around him, his people helped each other up. They had won this round, but they all knew it was only the beginning. On the flagship, Krethvos roared in anger. Impossible! They are miners, not soldiers. Thrall said nothing. He was watching his sensor screen again. The readings from the hollow were getting stronger. Something big was coming through. Overlord, he said quietly, you should see this. Krethvos looked at the screen. His yellow eyes widened. The readings were off the charts. Not one ship. Not 10 ships. Hundreds of ships were emerging from the unstable region. Hundreds of ships moving in perfect formation. What is this? Krethvos demanded. Before Thrall could answer, a new signal came through. A human voice, cold and hard as steel. Valkyrie fleet, this is Admiral Dong-Su of the Earth Defense Force. You have attacked our people. You have one chance to withdraw. Take it. Krethvos stared at the screen in disbelief. The stories Thrall had told him. The stories about humans coming for their people. They were not just stories. They were warnings. and he had not listened. The distress signal traveled through space like a whisper in a storm. It bounced off relay stations and emergency beacons, crossing light years in seconds. Most of space was empty and silent. But humans had built a network of listening posts across the galaxy, and they were always listening. On Luna, Earth's moon, the signal reached the headquarters of Earth Defense Command. The massive building sat inside a crater, protected by shields and surrounded by weapon platforms. This was the heart of human military power, the place where admirals made decisions that shaped the fate of colonies across the stars. A young officer named Jinwoo was the first to hear the signal. He was on night duty, monitoring incoming communications. When the words came through his headset, he almost dropped his coffee. "Emergency alert," he called out. "Distress signal from the Helix sector. Mining station under attack by Valkyrie fleet." The room went quiet. Then everyone started moving at one dot within minutes. The signal reached Admiral Dong-Su. He was in his private quarters, reviewing reports on a tablet. He was 62 years old, with a face like carved stone and eyes that had seen too many battles. He had commanded fleets for 30 years, and his reputation was known across the galaxy. Other species called him the Iron Admiral. His enemies called him the end of everything. Dong-Su read the message 3 times. 47 civilians. 60 Valkyrie warships. No chance of escape. He pressed a button on his desk. "Command center, now." 5 minutes later, he stood before a massive holographic display showing the Helix sector. His senior officers surrounded him, waiting for orders. "The Valkyrie have attacked the civilian mining station," Dong-Su said. His voice was calm but cold. "They are demanding surrender. They want slaves." Captain G1 stepped forward. She commanded the battleship Iron Will, one of the most powerful ships in the human fleet. She was 40 years old, with short black hair and scars on her hands from close combat. "How many of our people?" 47. Some officers exchanged glances. 47 people. A small number against the risk of war with the Valkyrie Dominion. But G1 did not hesitate. "When do we leave?" she asked. Dong-Su almost smiled. This was why he loved his people. They did not count numbers. They did not measure costs. When humans were in danger, other humans came for them. It was the one rule that no one questioned. "We leave immediately," Dong-Su said. "All available ships. Everyone." Lieutenant Su Bin worked at the navigation console. She was young, only 25, but she could calculate hyperspace jumps faster than any computer. She pulled up star charts and began running numbers. "Sir, the fastest route to the Helix sector takes 18 days, she said. "Standard hyperspace lanes. We do not have 18 days. Find another way." Su Bin went silent for a moment. Her eyes moved across the charts, seeing paths that others could not see. "There is a shortcut through the hollow. It is unstable, dangerous. Ships have been lost there." "How long?" 2 days. "Maybe less." Dong-Su nodded. "Plot the course." The recall order went out across human space. It reached ships on patrol, ships in dock, ships guarding distant colonies. The message was simple: emergency mobilization. All ships to Rendezvous Point Alpha. Immediately. Commander Hyun Woo received the order on his assault carrier. He led the Black Wolves, an elite strike force trained for the most dangerous missions. His soldiers were the best fighters humanity had produced. When regular forces could not succeed, the Black Wolves went in. "What do we have?" asked one of his soldiers, a woman named Haijin. "Mining station under attack," Hyun Woo said. "Valkyrie." Haijin cracked her knuckles. "How many?" 47 civilians. "We are getting them all out." Across the galaxy, ships began moving. Destroyers broke off from patrol routes. Carriers launched from dock without full supplies. Battleships cut short their maintenance cycles and powered up their engines. Every captain, every crew member, every soldier knew what was at stake. This was not about strategy. This was not about politics. This was about family. Humans had learned a hard lesson in their history. When they first reached the stars, they found that the galaxy was full of species that did not value individual lives. Empires that saw people as resources. Civilizations that counted deaths like numbers on a page. Humans chose a different path. They made a promise to each other. No one gets left behind. Not one person. Not ever. This promise was written into their laws, their military codes, and their hearts. It was the thing that made them different from every other species in the galaxy. Admiral Dongsu watched the fleet status screen as ships reported in. 10 ships, 20, 50, 100. The numbers kept climbing. "Sir," said an aide, "we have 180 ships confirmed. More are still responding." Dongsu nodded. It was a massive force for a rescue mission. Some might say it was too much. He disagreed. There was no such thing as too much when human lives were on the line. G1's battleship Iron Will took its place at the head of the formation. Her crew was ready, her weapons charged, her shields at full power. She stood on her bridge and looked at the stars. "Navigation, confirm course through the hollow," she ordered. Su Bin's voice came through the communication channel. "Course confirmed, Captain. It will be rough, but we will make it. We always do." The fleet began to move. Ships fell into formation, their engines glowing bright against the darkness. From a distance, they looked like a river of light flowing through space. Dongsu opened a channel to all ships. His voice reached every bridge, every barracks, every corridor. "This is Admiral Dongsu. In 2 days, we will reach the Helix sector. We will find a small station surrounded by enemies. We will find 47 of our people waiting for rescue. The Valkyrie believe they can take what they want. They believe no one will stop them. They are wrong." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We do not leave our people behind. We do not count the cost. We do not measure the risk. When someone calls for help, we answer. This is who we are. This is what makes us human. Prepare for battle. We will bring our people home." The channel closed. Across the fleet, soldiers checked their weapons. Engineers ran final tests on systems. Pilots climbed into their fighters. Everyone prepared for what was coming. The fleet entered hyperspace, disappearing from normal space in flashes of brilliant light. They moved faster than light itself, racing toward a distant sector where 47 people were counting the minutes until their fate was decided. In the darkness of the hollow, the fleet flew through twisted space that no other species dared to cross. Ships shook and groaned. Warning lights flashed, but they kept moving. On the Iron Will, G1 gripped the arms of her command chair and watched the swirling chaos outside her window. "Hold together," she whispered. "Just hold together a little longer." Behind her, 200 ships followed, the most powerful fleet assembled in years. And at the head of it all, Admiral Dongsu sat in his command center, calm as stone. He looked at a picture on his desk. It showed a young woman and 2 children smiling at the camera. His family, safe on Earth. He thought about the families waiting for those 47 miners. Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, children who just wanted their parents to come home. He would bring them home. Whatever it took. The fleet raced through the void, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The mining station Bright Star floated in the darkness of space like a small light in an endless ocean. It was far from Earth, far from any colony, and far from help. The station sat in the outer rim of the Helix sector, surrounded by asteroids full of rare minerals that humans needed for their ships and machines. Yunho stood at the main window of the command center, watching the slow dance of rocks outside. He was a man in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 30 years in space, and he knew every sound this station made. Today, something felt wrong. He could not explain it, but his gut told him trouble was coming. Behind him, the command center hummed with quiet activity. Screens glowed with data about mining operations, crew schedules, and system reports. Everything looked normal, but Yunho had learned to trust his feelings. Hana sat at the communications console, her fingers moving across the controls. She was young, only 28, but she was the best communications officer Yunho had ever worked with. Her eyes were sharp, and her mind was sharper. She noticed things that others missed. "Commander," Hana said suddenly, her voice tight, "I am picking up something strange." Yunho turned from the window and walked to her station. "What is it?" "Multiple signals. Very far away, but moving fast toward us." Hana's fingers flew across her console, pulling up data. "They are not using human codes. These are alien frequencies." Yunho felt his stomach drop. The Helix sector was supposed to be quiet. No alien empires claimed this area. That was why humans had built the mining station here. "Can you identify them?" Yunho asked. Hana worked for another minute. Then her face went pale. "Valtteri Dominion, Commander. Over 60 warships." The words hit Yunho like a punch to the chest. The Valtteri were known across the galaxy for one thing: slavery. They raided colonies, captured people, and sold them in markets on the other side of the galaxy. They were cruel, powerful, and they showed no mercy. "How long until they reach us?" Yunho asked, keeping his voice calm. "At their current speed, about 4 hours." Yunho looked around the command center. His crew watched him with fear in their eyes. The Bright Star had 47 people on board. Miners, engineers, scientists, and medical staff. Good people with families waiting for them back home. None of them were soldiers. The station had no weapons. It had no shields strong enough to stop warship fire. It had 2 small transport ships that could not outrun Valtteri cruisers. They were trapped. Tae-young rushed into the command center. He was the chief engineer, a man with quick hands and a quicker mind. "I heard the alert." "What is happening?" "Valtteri fleet incoming," Yunho said. 60 ships. Tae-young's face showed shock, then determination. "What do we do?" "First, we warn everyone." Yunho pressed the station-wide communication button. "Attention all crew. This is Commander Yunho. We have detected a Valtteri fleet approaching our position. All personnel must report to emergency stations immediately. This is not a drill." He released the button and turned to Hana. "Send a distress signal. Use every human frequency. Emergency code red. Tell them who we are, where we are, and what is coming." Hana nodded and began working. Her hands shook slightly, but her voice was steady as she recorded the message. "This is mining station Bright Star in the Helix sector. We are under threat from a Valtteri Dominion fleet. 60 warships approaching. We have 47 civilians on board. We have no weapons and no way to escape. Please send help. Please." She sent the signal out into the void, repeating it on every channel. The message would travel at light speed, bouncing off relay stations and emergency beacons. But Yunho knew the truth. The nearest human colony was weeks away. The nearest military base was even farther. Help would not arrive in time. A UN-by arrived next. She was the medical officer, a woman with kind eyes and steady hands. She had delivered babies on this station and treated every injury from minor cuts to serious accidents. Now she faced something far worse. I have prepared the medical bay, Umbai said. What should I expect? Yunho did not want to answer that question. The Valkyrie did not usually kill their targets. They wanted slaves, not bodies. But people who resisted often got hurt or killed anyway. Prepare for everything, he said. The next 3 hours passed in terrible slowness. The crew gathered in the main hall, holding each other, crying, praying. Some wrote messages to their families, hoping the data would somehow survive. Others helped Taeyong try to strengthen the doors and seal the important sections of the station. Yunho walked among his people, speaking to each one. He told them to stay calm. He told them they were not alone. He told them that humans never forgot their own. But even as he said these words, he wondered if they were true. They were so far from home. Would anyone really come? Hana kept the distress signal running. She also monitored the approaching fleet, updating Yunho every 30 minutes. The Valkyrie ships grew closer and closer on her screen, like wolves circling prey. 1 hour remaining, she reported. Yunho nodded. He stood straight and tried to look brave for his crew. Inside, he was terrified. But he would not show it. These people trusted him. He would stand with them until the end. Tae-Yang came to him with an idea. The mining lasers. They are not weapons, but they can cut through rock. Maybe they can damage small ships or buy us time. Do it, Yunho said. Anything that helps. Tae-Yang ran off to work on his plan. It was desperate, but desperation was all they had. The final minutes ticked away. Then Hannah looked up from her console with fear in her eyes. They are here. Yunho looked at the main screen. The Valkyrie fleet dropped out of hyperspace all around the station. Massive warships with dark hulls and weapons that glowed with deadly light. There were so many of them. The station looked like a tiny insect surrounded by giants. A communication signal came through. Hana opened the channel, and a harsh alien voice filled the room. Human station. This is Overlord Krethvos of the Valkyrie Dominion. You will surrender your people and your resources. Resist, and you will suffer. You have 1 hour to decide. The channel closed. Silence filled the command center. Yunho looked at his crew. He saw their fear, but he also saw something else. They were looking to him for strength. They were trusting him to make the right choice. He walked to the communication console and opened a channel to the Valkyrie ship. This is Commander Yunho of the mining station Bright Star. We refuse your demand. We are human beings, not property. We will not surrender. He closed the channel and looked at Hana. Keep that distress signal running. Someone will hear it. Someone will come. Hana nodded, even though they both knew it might be a lie. But sometimes hope was all you had. Out in the darkness of space, the signal flew onward, carrying the desperate cry of 47 souls who needed a miracle.